This is a third stimulus check update. I have a lot of important info to share with you in this video. The House is planning on having a vote any day now to pass the third $1,400 stimulus checks. I'm going to play a few different clips from Democrats defending the bill and Republicans criticizing the bill. I'll give you a $15 minimum wage update. Republicans offered a counteroffer of $10 minimum wage instead of the $15. I'll give you some other updates, and then I'll answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. I hope you're having a great day so far. If you appreciate these fact-based, fast-paced updates, then hit the like button down below. So I wanted to clarify something. This has been popping up all over social media. Will you be required to get a COVID-19 vaccine before you get another stimulus check? This is not true, regardless of where you see it on social media. Even though economists, lawmakers, and business leaders have proposed this, there is no formal proposal in Congress. So this is not true, but let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. Is this a bad idea, good idea to obligate someone to take the vaccine before getting a stimulus check? I'm really curious about your thoughts. Next, I'm going to show you a clip of Nancy Pelosi defending the bill. Then I'll play you a clip of Mitt Romney criticizing the bill so you get both perspectives. But first, here's Nancy Pelosi.
We saw last night the COVID bill that will go forward, and that legislation, we will crush the virus, vaccines in the arms, children in the schools, dollars in the pockets, workers into jobs, and it's really a very powerful piece of legislation. The Republicans say it's too much money. As our great President Joe Biden said, what would you cut? You want to take food off the table? This is about food on the table for tens of millions of families who are food insecure. Would you take off the money that we're putting there to help pay the rent for families that are housing insecure, and as we extend the moratorium on evictions and the rest? Would you cut the vaccines that we need to get in a way that addresses the disparity that has been out there in terms of communities of color, the further money that we have for testing and tracing, because it's not just about the vaccination, it's about everything that goes with it. Would you cut the money in the pockets of the American people, whether it is the unemployment insurance, the expanded benefit, and then on top of that, the direct payments?
Nancy Pelosi posing the question, what should we cut? If Republicans are criticizing so much, should we cut vaccines out of it? I think that's an unfair question. Playing devil's advocate, I just want to be clear, I'm in support of the stimulus package, stimulus checks, unemployment, rental assistance. I love all that type of stuff, just the unnecessary spending. As with any bill, whether it's from a Democrat or Republican, they're going to put in their own agenda in there. For example, this is a memo that came from the Republicans criticizing the bill. There's going to be $50 million in funding for the EPA. There's going to be $800 million in additional foreign food aid. So those are the type of things that I don't agree with. Mitt Romney is also not in agreement of the stimulus plan, saying that it's a clunker with troublesome amount to aids in states. Here's a clip by Mitt Romney criticizing the bill.
And I know you spent some time with President Biden in recent weeks talking about the stimulus plan. I know you object to it. I'm hoping you could help us understand the way you think about it and what you have told him and what's happening now behind the scenes.
Well, not a lot is happening behind the scenes that involves Republicans, because I think the Democratic leadership has determined that they want to push through the plan without any changes to it whatsoever and without any input from Republicans. And because it'll be done through budget reconciliation, they don't need any of our votes. So I think that's their intent. We went with the proposal of $618 billion. We indicated also we're happy to compromise, to meet in the middle, to work together. But the administration had no interest really in pursuing that path. And the Democratic leadership in the Senate and the House has not picked up that path either. Yeah, I find it a very troublesome bill, not so much because of the price tag, which is pretty substantial, but because there's a lot of stuff in there that's just simply wasteful. And I wish we could use the money that we're going to go out and borrow from China to actually do things that'll make a difference. I mean, so for instance, there's $350 billion slated to go to states. Now, most of our states didn't have a bad couple of years. Most of our states are doing very well. 21 states actually had their revenues go up during COVID. So sending money to states that don't need it doesn't make a lot of sense. California has record surplus, for instance, but it's slated to get $27 billion in borrowed money from the federal government. That just doesn't make sense.
When you raised that with the president, what did he tell you?
Well, I brought in a big map of the United States, and I had a color code for the economic conditions of each state, who had surpluses, who instead had a deficit, and said we don't need to give money to all the states that had surpluses. And he didn't have a response to that. He found my chart, I hope, interesting, and he and the vice president looked at it. But I pointed out that we're sending money to a bunch of states that don't need it. And that there are much higher priorities. There are people who really need the funds. There are small businesses that need the funds. We could be spending some money, by the way, on climate change technology. We could be spending the money in infrastructure. But to send money to places that don't need it is really not great policy.
Let me know what you think about Mitt Romney's case against aid for states and local government. Do you agree, disagree? Does he bring up valid points, or it doesn't make sense? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. So far, we are really close to a vote in the House, and GOP is still unified against the stimulus. So there are no Republicans who are for it at the moment. Mitch McConnell attacks President Biden, saying he hoped it would have been bipartisan. Actually, Mitch McConnell was very upset. Mitch McConnell also tweeted yesterday saying, "Science and data disprove the Democrats' notion that the K-12 schools need their new spending plan before they can open safely." Under their plan, about 95% of the K-12 money would not even go toward the current year's budget. Stop letting big labor move the goalpost on our kids. Basically saying that the $130 billion that's going to all the schools is not going to be used to reopen, and it's going to be for the following year, not for the current year. That's the big criticism, too, among Republicans. Here is a Democrat defending the bill, Senator Dick Durbin, and here's what he has to say.
Now, Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Democratic Majority Whip, Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois. Senator Durbin, good to see you this morning. Let's start there with the COVID relief bill. What is the state of the bill right now? It enjoys broad national support. 72% in some recent polling of Americans support the $1.9 trillion package. Are you going to get it through, and will you have to use reconciliation to do it?
Well, Willie, let me remind you that the first CARES Act in March of last year had 96-0 vote in the Senate.
Yep.
That the December version of this bill, which came down to a lower level, $900 billion, had 92 votes in support of it. And now we're looking around for Republicans who will step up and join us for the next bipartisan effort. We definitely need them, and we certainly need this relief going to the American people. More money for vaccines, more money for distribution, cash payment of $1,400 to many Americans who are desperately in need of it, making sure that the unemployment benefits don't run out in the middle of March, providing money for rental assistance so people are not evicted. This is an emergency measure that President Biden has sent us. We need the same level of bipartisan support that we gave during the Trump administration.
Senator Durbin, good morning. It's Casey Hunt. If the minimum wage hike to $15 an hour is included in this bill, and it's going to be in the House version that they send over, I know you're waiting on a ruling from the parliamentarian, but if she says, if the parliamentarian says okay, is Joe Manchin going to vote for this package if it includes the minimum wage? He's expressed concerns about it.
Casey has expressed concerns. I'll let Joe address his vote directly. But I think we need to be, I support it as it passed the House. I'd like to see it pass the Senate in the same form.
But when you're counting the votes, do you think you can get it passed?
Well, that's the key question, of course. In a 50-50 Senate, one senator makes a difference. So I don't want to suggest that Joe has decided to vote against it. I don't think he's made that announcement, but I know he's thinking about it long and hard. I hope that he does support it. We need him.
Dick Durbin saying that he would love some Republicans to support this bill, but most likely not going to happen. Let me know down in the comments below. Do you think a single Republican will vote yes for the bill? Really curious about your thoughts. I don't think it's going to happen. Either way, this bill is going to pass with or without Republicans, assuming all Democrats are for it. Moving on, let's talk about the $15 minimum wage. So currently, the $15 minimum wage is in the current COVID relief bill, but whether it stays in or not depends on one person, Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough. She's reviewing it now, and she's going to make the decision of whether everyone gets the $15 minimum wage or not. It's all resting on one person, which is kind of crazy to me that all of this responsibility and power for millions of people's lives, both employees and employers, is just on one person alone. So we should find out later today, if not tomorrow, if the $15 minimum wage will remain in the bill. Currently, the minimum wage is $7.25 and is going to be raised to $9.50 as soon as the bill is passed, and then by 2025 it'll go to $15. At the same time, Mitt Romney and Tom Cotton have unveiled their own plan to boost the minimum wage, but it's going to $10 per hour instead of $15. So their plan would raise the minimum wage to $10 per hour by 2025. So similar to what's going on with the $15, just a slow increase. By 2025, it would get to $10 an hour. Let me know what you think about that down in the comments below. Is that a good idea, bad idea? Is this going to help small businesses? Is this going to hurt employees and make people live below the poverty line longer? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. Next is a clip by Mitt Romney talking about his plan for the $10 per hour minimum wage.
Okay, so tell me about then this announcement today, a program that you announced with Tom Cotton, a minimum wage. Of course, this stimulus plan is hoping to push through a minimum wage of $15 federally. Your ambition is to do a $10 minimum wage. What's wrong with 15?
Yeah, the worst part of 15 is that it means, according to the Congressional Budget Office, that we'll lose 1.3 million jobs. And the reason for that, of course, is that the minimum wage right now is $7.25 an hour. Going to $15 an hour is such a huge leap that a lot of small businesses just won't be able to make it. They won't be able to survive with those kind of numbers. And so they'll go out of business and people will lose their jobs. And so instead moving to $10 and then thereafter, as we propose, moving with inflation, make sure that we get people a living wage, and we do so without costing jobs. The CBO has looked at our provision, doesn't cost any jobs. It instead creates better working conditions for the American worker. And we pair that with provisions to make sure that those that are here illegally can't work and take away jobs from the American worker. So we create a better workforce environment, hopefully leading to even more competition and higher wages going forward.
What do you make of the fact that a lot of Democrats don't believe the CBO score? Meaning they say, we don't believe that 1.4 million people are going to lose their jobs.
Well, my guess is the Democrats are happy to believe it when it tells them something they like, and not so happy to believe it when it tells them something they don't like. But there's no question. I mean, you can just figure this out. If you got a restaurant, for instance, and you have 5 or 6 workers that are getting paid a minimum wage or near minimum wage, and suddenly they're told we're going to double the wages in that restaurant, the restaurant has to either dramatically increase their prices, which of course will mean fewer consumers going there to shop for their meals, or they'll find themselves not being able to make their payments on their rent. I mean, basically, businesses go out of business. So, for instance, I mean, you can recognize if all of a sudden the minimum wage was $100 an hour, you'd basically close down the economy. Well, going from $7.25 to $15 is going to close down a lot of businesses and cost a lot of jobs. That's pretty straightforward.
Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about Mitt Romney's case to not raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour? Do you agree, disagree? Did he bring up any valid points? Let me know down in the comments below. Next, I'm going to answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. Tracy Schwertfeger asks, does child dependents get $1,400 as well? Yes, they do. Samara Saunders, is there any update with rent assistance? I'm in rural West Virginia and they have no info. So you'll have to look up with your local area. If you just type in Google, look up your town, your county, your state, try to find out as much information, maybe talk to your neighbors too. There is rental assistance, $25 billion that has been equally distributed among the entire country. If you qualify, you should be eligible for it. It's the county, state, and town's responsibility to distribute that money now, not federally. Question 2, is there anything in play to prevent property possession, repossession like last year? So the eviction moratorium is going on until March 31st. It got extended. Maritza Santos asks, you didn't mention about the employment, if it will extend, and will it expire this March? Do you think it will extend? So currently the unemployment benefits, the $300 per week boost, is set to expire March 14th, and sometimes a little later for other states because they started later. But once that ends, there is no extension unless this current COVID relief bill passes, and then it's going to go to $400 per week extension. So we're running on a tight deadline now that this bill has to pass, so there is no lapse, and it just goes from $300 a week to $400 a week. But most likely we're on track, and that should pass, and there shouldn't be a gap in between. Lindsay B asks, regarding child tax credit, does this mean that you won't get the child tax credit as a lump sum like usual, or will you get the original $2,000 then increment payment for the rest monthly? Good question. So what's going on now is once this bill passes, then you should get the child tax credit same as usual now, especially if you're filing your taxes. But in the future, they're going to have it paid out on a monthly basis starting July 1st, $250 or $300 per month, and it's not going to be a lump sum. It's going to be evenly distributed throughout the year on a monthly basis. That is all the stimulus news I have for you today. To brighten your day a bit, here is my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Oh, sorry guys, I see them. Can I tell you something? What I want to do is go to the moon. I need to go to the moon. Never mind. What do you want? Tell me in the comments below and see what you want. If you want to do something, then accomplishment. Do what you want, because that after you get too old to not do what you want. Oh, bye. The moon, bye.
And if you want to learn how rich people get rich and how they stay rich, there's a certain formula that they don't teach you in the schools nowadays. I recommend clicking this video over here. It's the 5 millionaire habits that you must copy if you want to become better with your money. It's not just about acquiring a bunch of money or how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. So click that video now if you want to learn more about that, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.